"You're a failure. Everything will go to your brother," my mother said that night. We were burying Dad, and she kicked me out of the house. 3 months later, my phone rang. "Why did the bank block our account?" And I just replied, "Ask your favorite son." I'll never forget that day. We were burying Dad, and as if the sky was also crying, there I was, soaked, watching them lower his coffin while my mother pretended to be devastated. I say pretended because what happened afterward showed me she didn't care a bit. My brother, Mateo, was by her side with that good boy face he always puts on, the perfect son, the one who got the best grades, the one who won trophies, the successful lawyer. Meanwhile, I, the eldest, was the black sheep according to Mom, although Dad always trusted me with the family business. A friend of Dad's approached me at the funeral, gave me a hug, and quietly said, "Your father was very proud of you, Daniel, more than you can imagine." Those words meant everything to me. When we got back to the house, I thought we would have a moment to process the grief, but no. As soon as we entered, my mother called us to Dad's office. She wanted to talk about the will and the inheritance. Can you believe it? Dad's body was still warm. The lawyer gave me the details beforehand. He said, wiping away tears that never appeared, "Your father divided everything equally between the two of you. The house, the accounts, the companies, everything." I saw Mateo's eyes widen in surprise. I felt some relief. At least Dad had been fair. "But we're going to change that," she suddenly blurted out, staring at me. "You're a failure, Daniel, you always have been. 32 years old, and what have you achieved?" "Nothing. Mateo is 26 and he's already a partner in his law firm." I was frozen. Every word hurt more than a punch. I wanted to tell her that I had been working with Dad for 5 years, learning everything about the construction company, rejecting offers from the competition out of loyalty, but I couldn't speak. "Mateo has plans to expand the company," she continued. "He has contacts, investors. You would only keep it as mediocre as your father." That made me react. Mediocre? My dad built everything from nothing while she enjoyed every peso without lifting a finger. My brother put on his diplomatic face. "Daniel, I understand you're upset, but the company needs to grow. I have interested investors. I can triple its value in 2 years. And what do you know about construction?" I replied, "Have you ever set foot on a construction site? Do you know the employees like Dad and I do?" "I don't need to know about bricks to grow a business," he answered with that smile I hate so much. "I need vision, something neither you nor Dad ever had." And then my mother dropped the bomb. "I've decided that everything will go to Mateo. Everything. I'll talk to the lawyer. We'll find a way." I stood up abruptly, so furious that the chair fell backward. "It's my inheritance too. Dad wanted it that way." "You were always the family's disappointment," she said without flinching. "Mateo will take over the company from now on, and you should find another place to live." Can you believe it? The same day as my father's funeral, they were kicking me out of my own house. "If you want to stay, I'll call the police," she threatened when I protested. "I'll say you're threatening us." I went up to my room and packed what I could into a suitcase: clothes, some money, my laptop. When no one was watching, I went into Dad's office and took some pictures of us and a small leather agenda he always carried. While packing, I remembered our last private conversation, 3 weeks before his heart attack. We were reviewing some contracts, and suddenly he became very serious. "Daniel, I don't trust your brother to understand what we've built," he told me. "I've taken precautions. In the safe in my office, there are important documents. Only you and I know the combination." I remembered it perfectly. 4-9-19-61, my birthday and the date he founded the company. "If something happens to me, protect our legacy," he asked. "Don't let anyone destroy it." At that moment, I didn't understand what he was really telling me. Now it all made sense. Coming downstairs with my bags, Mateo was waiting for me at the entrance with his fake concern. "I'm sorry, brother. Give Mom some time." "Don't pretend now," I replied. "You've always wanted everything for yourself." The company needs leadership, not maintenance, he said, no longer hiding his true feelings. Mom's right. I left under the rain without looking back. My phone rang. It was Miguel, my best friend. I know what happened. My door is open. At least I wasn't completely alone. And as I walked away, Dad's words echoed in my head, protect our legacy. And that's what I would do, even though I didn't yet know how. I spent the first few nights on Miguel's sofa. He's a great friend, but his bachelor apartment barely has room for him, let alone two. I slept badly, ate worse. I felt like a castaway. During the day, I tried to keep busy. I sent my resume to several construction companies. I had experience, but I also had a last name, the eldest son of Rodriguez Constructions, looking for work with the competition. It raised suspicions. Most didn't even respond. At night, I couldn't help but check my brother's Instagram. There was Mateo in Dad's office in his expensive suit and that toothpaste commercial smile. He posted photos with the veteran employees who had known me since I was a child. New direction, same commitment, he wrote. I wanted to smash the phone every time I saw it. One morning, while reviewing job offers, I came across something interesting. The National Bank was looking for an advisor for the business loan area, specializing in the construction sector. The salary was decent, and they were asking for exactly my profile. I sent my resume without much hope. 2 days later, they called me for an interview. I went dressed in the only suit I had managed to fit in my suitcase that night. During the interview, I mentioned that I knew the sector well because I had worked for 5 years in the family business. I avoided mentioning that I was the owner's son. I didn't want them to think I was a rich kid playing at working after a family fight. The interviewer, a serious woman named Christina, seemed impressed with my detailed knowledge of costs, suppliers, and financial flows of medium-sized construction companies. They hired me that same week. Christina would be my direct supervisor. The job consisted of evaluating loan applications from construction companies, verifying their solvency, and recommending or not approving credits, something I was more than prepared for. With my first paycheck, I was able to rent a small apartment, nothing compared to my parents' house, but it was mine. For the first time in my life, I felt independent. One afternoon, while reviewing a credit application, I saw something that caught my attention. A company was requesting a large loan to buy equipment. The name was familiar, Constructora Vanguardia S.A. I reviewed the details and almost fell out of my chair. It was a new company owned by my brother, Mateo. He had created this company parallel to Dad's. According to the documents, this new construction company was buying equipment from the original company, Rodriguez Constructions, at ridiculously low prices. It was obvious what he was doing, emptying the family business to strengthen his new business. This was exactly what Dad had. I needed more solid proof, and I remembered the safe. The next day, I asked for the afternoon off. I went to the offices of Rodriguez Constructions, pretending to be a client. The new receptionist didn't recognize me. I told her I had an appointment with Ricardo, the oldest foreman, who had known me since I wore diapers. When Ricardo saw me, he almost shouted my name, but I signaled him to be quiet. I took him outside the building to talk. Daniel, what are you doing here? Your brother went crazy and he'll see you. Ricardo, I need to get into my father's office for 10 minutes. It's important. Are you crazy? Mateo changed all the locks. It's his office now. He changed the safe too. Ricardo shook his head. It's the same one. Nobody's been able to open it. Your brother even brought a locksmith, but they couldn't. I have the combination, I told him. My father gave it to me in case something happened. I saw the doubt in his eyes. Ricardo had worked with Dad for 25 years. He respected him more than anyone. Your father would be turning in his grave if he saw what's happening, he finally said. Your brother is dismantling everything. He sold land, fired people who had been with us for decades, changed suppliers for friends of his who charge more and deliver less. Help me get in, Ricardo, just 10 minutes. I swear it's for the good of the company. He looked at me intently and then nodded. That afternoon, I entered through the back door when Mateo had gone to a business meeting, which, according to Ricardo, was actually a lunch with friends at an expensive restaurant, paid for with the company card, of course. Dad's office didn't look the same anymore. Mateo had changed the furniture, the photos, everything. Only the safe remained, hidden behind a new and horrible painting. My hands were shaking when I dialed the combination, 4-9-19-61. I heard the click. It worked. Inside, there were several envelopes and a USB drive. I took everything and put it in my briefcase. Just as I was finishing, I heard voices. Mateo had come back early. Ricardo got me out through the bathroom window, which overlooked an alley, like when we were kids, and sneaked out to play soccer. That night, I reviewed the documents. Dad had it all planned. There were records of all the company's operations over the last 10 years, contracts with original signatures, properties, bank accounts, and something more important, an additional will that the family lawyer didn't know about, drafted with another lawyer, where he specified that I should take control of the operations if something happened to him. There were also letters from suppliers thanking me for my management when I worked with Dad, personnel evaluations where I was rated as a fair boss, everything I needed to prove that I wasn't the failure my mother said I was. The next day at the bank, I had a revelation. Remember that I worked evaluating loans to construction companies? Well, it turned out we had access to the banking movements of the companies that requested credits, and Constructora Vanguardia SA was requesting a large one. I reviewed the numbers with a magnifying glass. My brother's new company was using assets from Rodriguez Constructions, my father's company, my company too, according to the will I had just found, as collateral. One day, while analyzing these documents, Christina, my supervisor, came into my office unannounced. She saw me with the papers from my brother's company. Do you know these people? Is there any conflict of interest I should know about? I decided to be honest. I told her the whole story. To my surprise, instead of firing me, she listened carefully. When I finished, she looked at me seriously and said, "What your brother is describing is asset stripping. It's fraud. And if he's using assets from one company as collateral for another without authorization, it's also illegal. What can I do?" I asked. "Can we start a formal investigation? With the will you found, you can dispute the ownership. But we need more evidence." During the following weeks, I worked day and night. At the bank during the day, investigating my brother's movements. At night, I discovered that he had been forging signatures, using company money for personal expenses, and worst of all, he had mortgaged properties of Rodriguez Constructions to finance Vanguardia. Meanwhile, my mother and brother lived like royalty. Instagram wasn't lying. Trips, expensive restaurants, designer clothes, all while the oldest employees were being fired one by one. One day, I received a call from Ricardo. "Your brother owes us 2 months' salary. He says there's no money, but he just bought a new car. People are furious." I asked him to gather the oldest employees in secret. I showed them the evidence I had in Dad's will. I explained my plan. They were in. Everyone loved my father and respected his wishes. With everything ready, all that was left was to wait. And the opportunity came sooner than I thought. One afternoon while I was working at the bank, Christina called me to her office. She had seen my investigation. "Constructora Vanguardia's account is in the red," she told me. "They've bounced 3 checks this week, and we've received an anonymous complaint about fraud." I smiled. I knew exactly who had made that complaint. Ricardo and the others had done their part. "It's time," Christina said. "The bank will freeze all related accounts first thing tomorrow morning." I returned to my small apartment and waited. I knew my phone would ring soon. And so it did. It was exactly 9:15 in the morning when my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it ring 3 times before answering, as Dad had taught me for important negotiations. Never seem anxious. "Daniel," I answered in a neutral voice. "Daniel." It was my mother. Her voice sounded hysterical, unrecognizable. I needed a second to process that it was her calling me after 3 months without hearing from her. Why did the bank block our account? She yelled without even greeting me. We can't make any transactions. Mateo says it's some mistake, but he's been trying to fix it all morning and nothing. They're ruining us. I smiled at the sweet irony. Her worried about being ruined when she had thrown me out on the street without a penny. Why are you calling me? I replied calmly. Do you work at that bank? No. Ricardo's wife told me. Do something. It's your father's business. Now you care about Dad's business? It wasn't mediocre. Wasn't I a failure who didn't even deserve to live in the family home? Daniel, this is no time for resentment. We have a crisis. Suppliers are calling us. Their work stopped. The employees are threatening to report us. I asked with all the calmness in the world, and what does your favorite son say? The brilliant Mateo? Can't he fix everything with his contacts and his investors? Silence on the other end of the line. I could almost see my mother slowly processing what was happening. Do you have something to do with this? She whispered finally. Ask your favorite son, I replied. Ask him about Constructora Vanguardia. Ask him about the assets he's been selling at ridiculous prices. Ask him about the land he mortgaged without authorization. What are you talking about? I work in the credit risk department of the bank where your son applied for loans using properties of Rodriguez Constructions as collateral, I explained. And I also work for the Economic Crimes Prosecutor's Office. Well, technically, I'm an external consultant, but I have access to everything. That was a lie about the prosecutor's office, but she didn't need to know that, not yet. This is absurd, she said in a shaky voice. Mateo would never what? Never steal? Never betray the family like you did with me the day we buried Dad. Silence again. Then I heard another voice in the background, Mateo asking who she was talking to. It's your brother, I heard her say. He says he has something to do with the bank issue. I heard scuffling. Mateo took the phone. What do you think you're doing? He yelled at me. Do you have any idea of the damage you're causing? The company is on the verge of bankruptcy. My company is on the verge of bankruptcy, I corrected him. Or your shell company, Constructora Vanguardia. How? He stammered. How do you know? I know everything, Mateo. The sales at giveaway prices, the fraudulent loans, the unpaid salaries, the inflated invoices to your friends, everything. I heard his agitated breathing. For the first time in his life, my perfect younger brother was speechless. I'll wait for you in my office in an hour, I told him. Bring Mom and the family lawyer if you want. It would be helpful for him to be present for what's coming. I hung up. I stared at the phone, processing what had just happened. So many years being the second, the failure, the disappointing one, and now, finally, I had control. An hour later, I saw them enter the bank, my mother in her finest clothes, as if she were going to a gala, Mateo in a suit but without a tie, a sign that he had left in a hurry, and old Torres, the family lawyer, with his worn leather briefcase. I made them wait 15 minutes in reception. Petty revenge, I know, but it felt good. When I finally received them in the meeting room, Christina was already there, along with 2 other people they didn't know, a legal representative of the bank and an inspector from the financial superintendency. Mateo paled when he saw them. What is this? My mother asked. An ambush. This, Mom, is a consequence, I replied, something you never thought would exist for your actions. During the following hour, Christina and the inspector detailed the irregularities found. Loans requested with false guarantees, suspicious transfers, sales of undeclared assets. My brother tried to defend himself, but the evidence was overwhelming. Torres, the lawyer, was increasingly uncomfortable. When we showed him Dad's second will, the one I had found in the safe, he took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. This document is legal, he finally said. It has Roberto's signature, certified by a notary. He never told me about it, but it's clearly his will. Mateo jumped out of his chair. This is ridiculous. A forgery. My brother is lying. The inspector from the superintendency intervened. Mr. Rodriguez, The preliminary investigations indicate that it is you who has been lying and forging documents and possibly committing tax fraud in addition to bank fraud. My mother, who had remained strangely silent, finally spoke. Daniel, whatever Mateo has done, I'm sure we can fix this as a family. We don't need these people. I looked at her intently. After everything they had done to me, she still thought this was something that could be fixed as a family? There are two options, I finally said. 1. We file formal charges: fraud, swindling, misappropriation, forgery. Mateo would probably go to prison. My mother's face contracted with horror. Mateo slumped back in his chair, defeated. Or 2, I continued. You return what belongs to me according to the original will, 50% of everything. The company goes back to being called Rodriguez Constructions, and I take over management. Mateo returns every penny he took improperly and resigns from any management position. And me? My mother asked. You can continue living in the family home, I replied. I'm not like you. I'm not going to throw you out on the street. But you will no longer have unlimited access to the company accounts. You will receive a reasonable monthly allowance, as Dad originally established. There was a long silence. Finally, Torres spoke. I recommend you accept. The evidence is overwhelming, and the legal consequences would be severe. Mateo looked at me with hatred, but he nodded. They left the bank defeated. My mother didn't even look me in the eye. Mateo muttered something that sounded like, "You'll regret this," but I didn't care anymore. I had all the cards. The following weeks were intense. I had to resign from the bank, with excellent references from Christina, and take control of the company. Many employees welcomed me with joy, especially the veterans who knew my work with Dad. Others, the friends that Mateo had brought in, resigned immediately. Ricardo became my right-hand man. Together we reviewed every contract, every account, every project. The company was in worse shape than I thought, but it wasn't irreparable. Mateo fulfilled his part of the agreement, probably out of fear of prison more than out of remorse. He returned the money he had embezzled and resigned from his positions. I heard later that he moved to another city to work in a smaller law firm. His brilliant career in business had ended before it began. My mother, well, it took her longer to assimilate everything. For months, she barely spoke to me. When we crossed paths in the house, I had decided not to move back. My small apartment had become my refuge, and I didn't want to share a roof with her after what she did to me. One day, almost 6 months after that meeting at the bank, she called me. She wanted to talk. We met at a neutral coffee shop, not at the house or my office. I think I owe you an apology, she said without looking directly at me. I believed Mateo's lies. He told me you were sabotaging the company, that you were irresponsible, that you were going to ruin everything your father built. I looked at her in silence. It was too late for apologies, but at least it was a start. Your father would be proud, she added. The company is better than ever. I heard you won the bid for the new hospital project. I nodded. It had been a great achievement, and I knew Dad would have been happy. I'm not asking you to forgive me, she continued. I just wanted you to know that I was wrong and that I'm grateful that you weren't as cruel to me as I was to you. We said goodbye with an awkward hug. We weren't a repaired family, not by a long shot, but at least we weren't enemies anymore. Today, 2 years later, Rodriguez Constructions is stronger than ever. We have projects in 3 different cities. I've rehired several employees that Mateo had fired. Ricardo is about to retire, but before he does, he's training his son to take his place. My mother lives quietly in the family home. Sometimes I visit her for dinner. We talk about safe topics, the weather, the news, some TV show. Never about Mateo. Never about the past. And in my office, the one that was Dad's, I keep a photo of him next to the safe that saved his legacy. Sometimes, when I have a difficult decision, I look at that photo and ask myself what he would have done. And I always hear his voice telling me, protect our legacy. And that's exactly what I do every day. Sometimes life gives you the opportunity to show who you really are, not when everything is going well, but when it seems like you've lost everything. And it turns out I wasn't the failure my mother believed. I was exactly the son my father knew I could be. And that's my story. The next time someone tries to convince you that you're worthless, remember, sometimes the so-called failures are the only ones capable of saving what others are too busy destroying.